What's up, Flumphs? Ready to become masters of your own world? Hi everyone, MacLeod here. I've decided to open my second year on YouTube with something a little different. So today's topic is the Dungeon Master. What does it mean to be the DM in a Dungeons & Dragons game? And what is expected from you when you decide to take up the mantle? I'm going to assume you know what this wonderful game is, but otherwise have no prior knowledge. By the end of this video, you'll know what it means to be the DM and how to take the first few steps towards running your own game. If that sounds good to you, sit back, relax, and enjoy. The Dungeon Master is the creative force behind the D&D game. The DM creates a world for the other players to explore, and also creates and runs adventures that drive the story. When you build a world for a D&D game, your job is similar to that of an author, but instead of creating the entire story, you focus on creating the narrative up until the starting point of your adventure. This can feel a bit overwhelming, but in reality, you don't need to create the entire world right away. You can start by focusing on a single area and expand the world as you go. Think of it like one of those starting locations in a video game. It makes things a lot simpler. If you want to hear more about adventure building, check out this miniseries. A Dungeon Master gets to wear many hats. As the architect of a campaign, the DM creates adventures by placing monsters, traps, and treasures for the other player's character to discover. As a storyteller, the DM helps the other players visualize what's happening around them, improvising when the adventurers do something or go somewhere unexpected. As an actor, the DM plays the roles of the monsters and supporting characters, breathing life into them. And as a referee, the DM interprets the rules and decides when to abide by them and when to change them. These four hats are the heart of what being a DM is. And as you play the game, you might realize that you prefer some of them over others. The Dungeon Master's Guide wisely mentions that you should focus on the aspect that you personally enjoy and downplay the rest. If you don't like creating your own adventures, you could use pre-existing ones. If the rules feel like too much to remember, you can lean on your players for help. This game is meant to be fun for everyone around the table, and that includes you. Every DM is the creator of his or her own campaign world. Whether you invent a world, adapt a world from a favorite movie or novel, or use the published setting for the D&D game, you make that world your own over the course of a campaign. So don't be afraid to experiment, bring your own unique spin on the fantasy you grew up on. This is your world, so you can do whatever you want. Just remember that it's also the stage upon which the players act, so the adventures in this world should revolve around the adventurers. As Dungeon Masters, you want the other players to feel immersed in the game world you've created. To that end, you need to create a world that feels consistent, but at the same time changes and grows along with the adventurers. This aspect of DMing is close to my heart, and I talk more about it in my other videos. Whether you write your own adventures or use published ones, expect to invest preparation time beyond the hours you spend at the gaming table. You'll need to carve out some free time to exercise your creativity as you invent compelling plots, create new NPCs, craft encounters, and think of clever ways to foreshadow story events yet to come. And even with all that, when the time to apply your preparation comes, the players might do something you haven't anticipated. This is the nature of the game and, honestly, a huge part of its charm. Some of the most memorable moments I've had in D&D were improvised. So yes, planning is important, but we should also plan to improvise. As a referee, the DM acts as a mediator between the rules and the players. A player tells the DM what he or she wants to do, and the DM determines whether it is successful or not. In some cases, asking the player to make a die roll to determine success. For example, if a player wants his or her character to make a swing at an orc, you say, make an attack roll while looking up the orc's armor class. The rules of D&D do not account for every possible scenario. When something that isn't covered by them happens, you will have to determine the outcome. You might ask for the players to make some dice rolls and narrate the result accordingly. Or do something else entirely. How you choose to handle these situations is entirely up to you. While this can seem intimidating at first, knowing the rules can help you come up with good solutions to these unexpected situations. I'm not saying you should memorize the entire player's handbook, but if you have a rough idea of its contents, you'll be able to pull it out for reference with ease. I've heard some people mention that it's the DM's job to make the game fun for everyone. I don't believe this to be the case. I think it's everyone's job to make the game fun for everyone. I've tried to please everyone in the past, and to an extent, I still do. But I realize now that some people cannot be pleased, and some people should not play together. It's okay. It's also okay not to be on top of your game every session, especially early on. Give yourself a chance to learn, to make mistakes, to make fun of yourself. This hobby is ultimately a way for friends to have fun telling stories together. Everything else is secondary. So how do you take the next step from here? If you've never ran a game before, you can get one of the starter sets for D&D 5th edition. They're a wonderful introduction to the game and contain plenty of tips for DMs on how to run them. I've actually played in the Dragon of Einspire Peak starter set and it was tons of fun. You can check out the link above to see the actual play we had with One Crit Wonder, who's a wonderful DM by the way. Another option is to try making up your own adventure in a setting you are familiar with. There are plenty of published setting books out there. Each presents a unique, fantastic world for you to explore. I'll put a few links in the description. If you're feeling extra adventurous, you can build up everything from scratch, but tread carefully. If you've never run a game before, it will be challenging to determine which information is essential and which is not. It's a slippery slope that could throw you into the pit of infinite world building, where DM spends months on writing every little detail and never get to actually run their game. Another huge tip for beginners is to read the Dungeon Master's Guide. Seriously, I cannot stress this enough, this book is pure gold. Frankly, most of what I talked about today is based on it. If you read this book cover to cover, you'll already know more than many other DMs out there. I still read it from time to time and discover things I've missed or forgotten. I don't think anyone can remember everything in it. Lastly, the entire purpose of this channel is to explore the possibilities of DMing, to discuss world building and storytelling, and build a community to help each other out. I've made several videos that dive into that. This is my passion, and this is my way of sharing it with you. So, what are you waiting for? Go on, run your own game, and don't forget to drop by and tell me how it went. Until next time, friends, you are awesome, keep being awesome, and I'll see you beyond the screen.